Hello and welcome to Right from the Kickoff. I'm your host this week, William Bayliss, and as always, we are joined by Joe Wright. How are you doing, Joe?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you, mate. Another good week in the Premier League, so it'll be interesting to get into it.
Lots to talk about, but most importantly, Forest gets our first sweet points on the table. A 1-0 lucky win against West Ham. We'll come on to it a little bit later on, man. I'm just happy that we got our first win in 23 years in the Premier League.
It was a good win for you, wasn't it? Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, beating West Ham is no means feat, let's be real.
No, it's not.
But before we get started, don't forget to follow us on all our socials on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, all that good stuff. Don't forget to subscribe. We want to hear from you guys as well. So if you have any comments, please drop them down below. And just starting last week, we now have a TikTok. So we've been keeping on that. I kind of had a little vlog for the West Ham match, which you found very entertaining, didn't you, Joe? You got
very entertaining. Yeah, very entertaining, especially with the atmosphere and the singing of obviously the Trent song at the start. So yeah, it's good atmosphere, and you could really feel it from the TV. To be fair, so to be there must have been absolutely insane.
It's on a whole nother level.
Yeah,
we need to expand the stadium pronto. But yeah, let's get started then, Joe. So I know we touched on Forest, but let's start on the first match of the game week, Villa versus Everton. Now, last week, Joe, we spoke about how is Gerrard the right man for Villa. We looked at his record, he wasn't doing so well, but he managed to pluck up a 2-1 win against Everton, who I think is going to struggle a lot this season. What did you think of it, Joe?
Yeah, I think if I was Villa, if they'd lost this game, I'd have been very worried going forward. I think Everton I just don't fancy them at all. I really do feel like they're in for another season of a relegation fight for sure. And no, it's a good win for Villa, but like I say, I think going in, I'd have expected them to win, especially with it being a home game.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with you, but I think it will instill some confidence for Villa going forward. Hopefully, we'll be able to pick up where they were at the start of last season and towards the end of the season before that. But Everton, they might be in a bit of trouble, like we were saying. They were lucky not to get relegated last season if it wasn't for their good form towards the end of the season. But
Frank Lampard's the first manager to be sacked for me, personally, I think.
Oh yeah, Frank Lampard. I think he might get found out. I think he already is getting found out. And with Everton's next game against Forest, this would be. I am a Forest fan, but I think Everton would want to play Forest, and I think Forest will want to play Everton. So I think it would be quite a good game. Personally.
Yeah, for sure.
But we'll touch on that more later on. Now let's move on to Arsenal versus Leicester. Now, obviously, Joe, we all know you're a Leicester fan. 4-2 to Arsenal, though. What did you think of it?
It's not really, anything I didn't expect. I think I had 4-1 in the predictions, and I really meant that. Just because I know we're on a bit. We've got a few people turning their heads in the dressing room. You look at Maddison losing a leader at the back and Schmeichel, obviously Fofana trying to push through a move to Chelsea. So it's not really anything you wouldn't expect. I feel like once the window closes for us, we might pick up a few more good results. I think, once the dressing room's a bit more settled. I have to say I didn't put Arsenal in the top four at the start of the season, and I know it's a long way to go, but I have been impressed with them in their opening two games.
Yeah, they have been good, haven't they?
Jesus was on fire, and he's always good for a goal against us. Did it quite a few times against Man City when he was a Man City player. So I was expecting him to score again on Saturday, and he did that. He got a brace. So yeah, good player.
Yeah, I completely agree. But obviously, this is Leicester's second loss in a row. Are you nervous about? Obviously, you got Fofana at the back, but do you think defense is something you need to strengthen a little bit this season?
The thing is, it's kind of where do you get the money from? It's been well known from, obviously, if you guys watch Sky Sports, obviously there's Rob Dorset, who's very close to the Leicester kind of goings on, and he's come out this week and said he doesn't expect Fofana to go. You know, we're very much in a very stable financial position, but we won't, as a club, spend money we don't have. And as much as people think that we need to sell our players, that's not the case. We can afford the squad we've got, and we would be able to bring a player of similar quality, or at least price-wise quality, if we were to get a replacement. The problem is for someone like Leicester, for a team like Leicester, is if you sell a player of a finest quality, you might be able to get a centre back that's a good centre back, but would you be able to get one of his quality, and especially what Brendan wants, which is a centre back that pushes on forward?
And those are always hard to come by, aren't they?
Yeah, they are, and especially with him being as young as he is. You know, he's physically fit. You know, he's physically tall, strong. You know, he's got all the attributes you want. Having said that, we have conceded 6 goals in 2 games, obviously with 2-2 draw against Brentford, so we haven't lost 2 games in a row. Just want to put that straight.
Oh yeah, but it felt like a loss.
Yeah, well, no, it did for sure. But you know, I feel, it sounds really weird. I don't know what's happened with me this week. I feel more confident about City's season than I did last week, and we're coming off the back of a loss. I mean, can you try and explain that for me, Will? From what we've been talking about,
I could not.
I don't really get it, but I do.
It's a strange one, but you can see the building blocks going forward. But let's move on to Brighton versus Newcastle. Now, this game finished 0-0, and I think both sides would be happy with this, because Brighton are a tough team to play against, and as I know, Newcastle are also a tough team to play against, given the amount of confidence they have, good attacking players. So, do you think both sides would be happy?
I don't know. Not if you watch the game. I think Brighton will be very disappointed. They struggled to score again. They were all over Newcastle.
It's a Brighton of old.
Yeah, I mean, if you'd have said, would you take 4 points at your first 2 games, especially with one of those being United, they would have snapped your hand off. So of course they'll be happy with their overall points tally at the moment. But I feel like in that particular game now, I don't think Brighton will be happy. I think Newcastle will be very happy with Nick Pope's performance, who put in a great performance for them.
Nick Pope?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Given that, just makes sense. Now, moving on to Man City Bournemouth. Now, this was 4-0 at half time. And then they just kind of took their pedal off the gas in the second half. It could have been a whole lot worse for Bournemouth, couldn't it?
Yeah, it could have done, but I think again, it's Man City can do that. You know, they didn't even really. If you watch the game, they didn't really get out of third gear at any point either. You know, as much as Bournemouth put up a bit of a fight, tried to at least, there was no worries for Man City, and they looked frightening. And unfortunately, I'm going to say this: I don't mind City with the players or the fans. I'm not a massive fan of Pep, as I've made my opinions clear on that. But he's a terrific manager. Can't take that away from him. But I just feel like they're going to run away with the league this year. There's no one really. Even Liverpool have had a bit of a stumbling start. And once you go 4 points behind City, once they get their noses in front, even at this early stage, it's very, very hard to catch them, as we know.
Yeah, because a few seasons ago they got 100 points. Now the maximum you can get is
114.
14, yeah. So, but if they get over 100 points, then they're pretty much won the title already, haven't they? Let's be real.
Yeah, I mean, you can't say that Liverpool are now going to win 36 games in a row, which is something they're going to have to try and do. Which is ridiculous. Which I can't believe I'm saying. It's ridiculous.
Can still win the league, aren't they?
Yeah. Well, this is the thing. Well, actually, no, they couldn't. They couldn't, because obviously, if Liverpool
drew,
if Liverpool beats Man City twice, obviously they'll win the title. But we're already in a stage where you're looking at it and going, Liverpool are already dropping behind, and I just can't. City are already favourites for me already. Two games into the season.
Yeah, I think Arsenal might be there come the end of the season as well, like we touched on. But let's move on to Southampton versus Leeds. Now, this was a good 2-2 game. What did you think of it, Joe?
Yeah, it was a decent game. I think if I'm going to be honest, I think Leeds will be very disappointed in terms of very much like Brighton in different ways, because obviously a bit like Leicester in the first week, they were 2-0 up, looking like they were going to cruise to a victory, and obviously Southampton paid them back. I think again, if you ask Leeds and you ask Jesse Marsh if they could take 4 points out of the first 2 games, that are taking it. But I think, and I think Leeds not necessarily going to be dark horses this season, but maybe from what I've seen in the opening kind of 2 weeks, might not be in as much trouble as we initially thought. But we'll see, And Southampton, I still worry for them personally. I just do. I just don't think they've got enough. I mean, I like James Ward-Prowse, but he's kind of the only player that really sticks out for me in that Southampton squad. Obviously, you've got Che Adams looking for a transfer. I just don't know. They just don't tick the boxes for me.
Well, they signed Aribo, didn't they? And from what I've seen, he looks pretty good so far. But let's move on to 2 new teams. So we got Wolves versus Fulham. Now this was a 0-0. I think Mitrovic missed a penalty in this game, didn't he? So Fulham will be a bit annoyed that this game finished 0-0, wouldn't they?
Yeah, I think it was the right result, if I can remember rightly. I can't really remember much from the highlights, I'm going to be completely honest. It was a bit of a nothing game other than that Mitrovic penalty miss. It was a poor penalty. Good save by the keeper, but poor penalty. And I just, yeah, it was you wanted Mitrovic to kind of kick on from his good performance against Liverpool, so I don't think that had done his confidence very well, because he wasn't really in the game. He was missing quite a lot. And 0-0, fair result in my opinion, yeah, but just a boring game personally.
Yeah. Now, moving on to a game which certainly wasn't boring. Brentford 4, Manchester United 0. Now, this game, Brentford were all over Manchester United. Man United have so many problems this season. Number one, getting rid of their best goalkeeper to Forest and keeping De Gea. Let's be real. Henderson is a far. Joe, you can't even argue with that fact.
I can. And the reason I'm going to is I'm gonna. Every fan does it, and I'm not saying that De Gea's had a great performance. He had a shocking performance, and I like Dean Henderson. I think he's a very good keeper. I would certainly take him at Leicester, but again, fans need to stop doing this, and including yourself, Will. We need to stop taking these isolated performances. It's great you've had one performance, doesn't make you world class, right? He started off very, very well, but again, you need 10, 20, 30 games of data before you can be like, okay, this guy's consistently performing at the top level to make him world class.
To be fair with Henderson, he did pretty much keep Sheffield United.
No, again, I'm not sitting here and saying that Henderson isn't a good keeper. I've already said I'd take him at Leicester, especially with the keepers that we've got. He's a very good keeper. But again, I think, De Gea in his earlier sort of years, he's won the Premier League title. He's one of the very few, including Ronaldo. I think him and Ronaldo are the only two in a Manchester United shirt that have actually won a title. De Gea saved them a lot last season. He's had a diabolical start to this season, but we're only 2 games in. And what I'm saying to you, Will, is don't look at it as a game-by-game basis. You need to take a pool of games and you need to look at it overall. I'm not saying Henderson at the end of the season, you might be right. Henderson might have had the better season. But again, and I'll make this point, I've been watching a lot of Manchester United this week, and, it's a different pressure being at a club like Sheffield United and Nottingham Forest, newly promoted clubs where you can thrive and where you are one of the bigger names on the team sheet. And it's a cauldron at Manchester United, especially with the especially with the attitudes and kind of the surroundings of the team. So that particular question, I can't answer that for you. I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm not saying you're right, but I don't think it's a case of you going, well, you can't even disagree with that, because there's many different factors that you need to bring in.
Yeah,
Like I just have.
No, for sure. But let's get to Manchester United, this game more specifically anyway. What went wrong? What went wrong?
Well, I just
quite a lot.
Yeah, I don't really know. Well, like we've just touched upon, obviously De Gea had a horrific performance. Obviously, he was at fault for the first 2 goals, maybe the first 3, if you look at it back. But I think the problem is everyone was looking at De Gea. Obviously, came out after the performance and said, sorry, cost my team this, that, and the other. But the guy is seriously lacking confidence because he doesn't have confidence in his defence or his midfielders or his strikers to track back. Like, there is just no passion, nothing.
I think Brentford really exploited that because obviously Ten Hag wants them to play it about the Ajax way, and they're just not used to it. And Brentford, let's not take away Brentford's ability in this game. They
Absolutely
played
fantastic.
Well. The high press was exceptional. They're the ones who cause these issues, to pressure the goalkeeper, pressure defenders to make these mistakes, and they paid dividends, didn't it, Joe?
Yeah, for sure it did, for sure. And like you've just pointed out, I think what's very interesting is if you were to show somebody who had never watched football before, and you kind of talk them through all the stats of the teams and the history of the teams, and you went, right, one of these is a top team who have got a massive history, and they're the bigger club, and one of these teams is kind of newly promoted in the last couple of seasons, he's finding their feet in the Premier League. Yeah, you wouldn't be able to tell which is which, because you certainly put Man United as Brentford and Brentford as Man United, because Brentford just absolutely outclassed Man United for that first half in all aspects. And and I'm sorry we're taking a bit more time on this, but I think it needs to be spoken about, is the fact that Brentford are a team. Brighton, when they faced Man United the week prior, are a team. They're a cohesive unit who work together, work for their manager. And yes, they might be lesser players, but these are top quality Premier League players that, when playing together properly, can take anyone apart, as we've seen. And if you don't play at the levels that you need to at the Premier League, teams like Brentford and Brighton will take you apart. Because
100%.
they've got an unbelievable ethos at the club, which is everybody's pushing in the same direction. And it just goes to show team cohesiveness is far more important than egos. And just so
100%.
everyone's listening, the reason why Will started laughing is because team cohesion is Will's philosophy in life. I think if you're looking for the picture next to team cohesion, I think your face will be next to it, wouldn't it, Will?
Yeah, so a little sidebar, just delving a bit deeper into that. Me and Joe met at college and university on our sports coaching degrees, and so many of my assignments, I had to integrate team cohesion somewhere in there, and I was well renowned for it, wasn't I, Joe?
Yeah, I feel like you're having a little bet for yourself. You're having a little bet with yourself. It would be constantly mentioned. But yeah, anyway, that's why he was laughing. Anyway, let's move on.
Move on to a team which might not be as cohesive at the moment, given the amount of players and money they spent. It's Nottingham Forest. Now, Nottingham Forest, my team, managed to squeak past West Ham 1-0 in this game. Now, I'll let you come into this a bit later on, Joe. You can see my TikTok.
I'm actually going to ask you, so roles are going to be reversed. I'm just going to ask you. Obviously, he did a TikTok. Will did a TikTok. He went
check
to the game. Please check it out on our TikTok. It's right from the kick, because we couldn't add the off. But you had a good day, didn't you, Will? Obviously, it was always going to be a good day. How did you feel, and how was the atmosphere going into the ground? And were you overly? I mean, I bet you were thrilled with your team's performance and the result at the end of the day.
Yeah, I mean, the atmosphere was unbelievable. Like, it just carried on like where it was before. And I think the players really played to the occasion. They didn't let it get to them like we did at Newcastle. They really thrived into the pressure. And I think that might be one of the reasons why West Ham missed the penalty as well, because it was so intense, and like Forest got that look that in the day, and it was unbelievable. Forest actually started better than West Ham. The first 20 minutes, half an hour, we were on top. You might not see it from the replays because I feel like it was a little bit overbiased, even though West Ham were on top after that point. And we had some decent chances. Obviously, we scored towards the end of the first half. West Ham thought they scored first, but rightly it was giving us a foul. Did you think it was a foul? Antonio basically like
100%. 100% it was a foul. I mean, you know, I as soon as I saw it happen, I was like, well, that's going to VAR, because he literally just body checks him like he's doing some sort of wrestling move.
After that, everyone just stood still, and Rice played the ball in to Ben Rama, didn't he? Just lost at home, but clear foul all day long. And then Forest went down the other end. A great run from O'Brien. Managed to waltz his way through the West Ham defence, square it to Lingard, who scuffed his shot. I think it was to Johnson, who kicked it straight to I can't remember his name. I can't pronounce his name either. I'm not very good at pronouncing his name.
Is it?
Yeah. And he just the easiest goal he ever get to see, to get his Forest first goal. And honestly, it was unbelievable.
You've got to be there to score it, though, haven't you? You've got to be there to score it.
You have to be there. And then in the second half, a lot of it was all West Ham. They hit the crossbar 3 times. They had a penalty. Well, what did you think of the penalty, Joe? Because obviously, I don't think he intended it for it to hit his arm. I think he just tried to get his body in the way. It hit his arm, but
I can see what you're saying, but within what laws of the game, it was a penalty. I mean, it doesn't really matter anyway because he missed it.
Yeah. No. So my question is, obviously it's a penalty. I'm not disagreeing with that, but a lot of people think it should have been a red card. Now I don't.
I don't.
Henderson was behind him.
I don't. They've got if anyone wants to know why it wasn't, it's because they've got a rule in now, which is the double jeopardy rule. So if the penalty's given and there's cover, you can't be given a sending off. You'll see a lot less red cards given for one-on-one opportunities if a penalty's given, because it's a double jeopardy thing. They don't just they tend to not hand out straight reds for penalties anymore.
Yeah, and that's all she wrote. Forest managed to hold on for the 1-0 win. Now we did squeak past it, but you know, you need luck in this game, don't you? And I know you asked me before the podcast started, like, I'll be more nervous after the game than before. But I don't think that's right, because yes, we have a new team and full of new players. We were just apparently close to signing Gibbs White for the initial 25 mil with add-ons to add-on.
Add-ons to about 42 to /44 million, by the way.
Yeah, but remember, Joe, a lot of those add-ons isn't going to happen. Like getting to Europe is probably going to be an add-on, for example.
Oh yeah, there won't be look, mate. I'm not being funny. There will not be an add-on in his contract for Forest getting to Europe, because Wolves will just be like, well, that's not even any point putting in the contract because they ain't getting to Europe this season.
Well, from what I've read, that there's £7 to £10 million on top of the 25, which are realistic ones, like staying in the league, blah blah blah. And then the rest of it is like what might not happen.
Fair enough.
Highly likely not to happen, but you see that all the time in contracts anyway. But yeah, anyway, additional point. Then that we can still win with a new team. This early on, we're going to build. We're only going to get better, play more of a Cooper's ethos, because we saw from last season, a Cooper side can beat anyone on the day. Have a look at Leicester. Have a look at Arsenal. Regardless of if they had the best team, they were playing best team, blah blah blah, they still had a far superior team on paper than Forest on the day.
Yeah, that's true. You know, we'll see what happens. I mean, I'm not overly convinced. I'm still not overly convinced, but I think it's good that you got your first win. You needed to get it, and you've got Everton this weekend, which I think is a good chance for another 3 points.
I hope so. I think it's
you
be an interesting
need
game.
you need to get wins early to get the momentum going, because I feel like you will come unstuck later on in the season.
But so far, so good.
Yeah.
I'm trying to remain positive now. Let's move on to a feisty game. A very, very feisty game. Chelsea versus Spurs. Now, this was boiling from minute one, wasn't it, Joe? Can you talk us through the game?
Yeah. So basically, obviously, what happened was I'm going to talk more about what happened on the sidelines, to be fair. But let's talk.
Would you like
to
shake my hand, Joe?
Yeah. Obviously, Chelsea take the lead 1-0. Lovely volley from a corner from Koulibaly. Great finish.
That technique was unbelievable.
Almost Rudiger-esque, you would say, wouldn't you? I mean, I'm just joking, but obviously, brilliant goal. There's a foul in the build-up on, I believe, Kai Havertz for Tottenham's first goal. 44 seconds later, Højbjerg strikes from the edge of the box. The ball goes into the bottom corner. Obviously, because it's been 44 seconds, they can't pull it back, so it's 1-1. Gets a bit feisty on the touchline with Conte getting in Tuchel's face, which I obviously thoroughly enjoyed. And then Chelsea retake a lead through Reece James. Spurs' defence opens up, and Raheem Sterling lays a pass into Reece James, who blasts it down the middle of the goal, but with nice power, side foot. Lovely goal.
That's great build-up, wasn't it?
Yeah, and then Tuchel gives it back, starts running up the touchline, celebrating, getting a bit leery, getting in everyone's face, and kind of giving it back to Conte. Which I loved, because actually we don't see that side of Tuchel very much, do we?
People always say, "Oh, you don't want to see this," and they're like, "No, this is exactly what people want to see."
Exactly. No.
Between the teams.
Exactly.
I don't know why they always say that.
No, exactly. I mean, I love Tottenham Chelsea, because actually it's given us some of the most feisty fixtures in the past couple of years.
Let's be real, it's a bigger game than Tottenham Spurs, isn't it? I mean,
yeah, Tottenham Arsenal. Yeah, no, I'd agree. To be honest, I think there's more fire there. Tottenham Spurs playing against themselves, and then late on there's a bit of controversy. So obviously there's feistiness going off between the managers, and it's all kind of going up. And Spurs get a free kick, it gets whipped in. Harry Kane wins it nicely, gets whipped in, goes out for a corner, and you're thinking, right, okay, all right,
last minute,
ball comes in, and I think it might be Ben Davies who heads it over, and Mendy touches it over, right? So that's the shot. But what's happening in the box is obviously Cucurella, who's the new Chelsea signing from Brighton, is tussling with Romero, and Romero tugs at Cucurella's hair.
Let's be real. It wasn't just a tug, was it?
No, it wasn't. It was a yank. So realistically, it should have been given as a foul and a possible red card, personally, for me. Well, it was a red card because it was violent conduct, right? So if that happens, obviously Chelsea get the free kick and it ends 2-1 Chelsea. But does that happen? No, it doesn't. VAR check it. It goes. They can't give it. They don't give it a red card. So obviously they can't make it a free kick because it's not in the rules. If it's not a red card, they can't do anything about it. Next thing you know, ball comes in. Harry Kane's on the spot.
It's a great header.
Touches it upon the keeper. It's basically the last touch of the game and makes it 2-2. And the Spurs fans go wild. Right? Doesn't end there. This game was the game of the weekend, in my opinion. Doesn't end there. So everyone's whistle goes, finishes 2-2. Conte and Tuchel obviously been going feisty, been going at it all game. Conte goes to shake Tuchel's hand. Tuchel obviously pulls him back. Conte then squares up to Tuchel. There's a massive brawl. There's a massive fight. And
it's more like Strictly Come Premier League, isn't it?
Yeah, Strictly Come Premier League. And both managers have now been suspended because they both got red cards from the next couple of games for each of them. to be in the dugouts. So it was, all in all, it was a very, very entertaining game, wasn't it? And I thoroughly enjoyed it.
Yeah, it was a great game for the neutral.
Chelsea were the better team as well. I will say that Chelsea were the far better team.
Chelsea were all over Tottenham. Let's be real.
But I think the fact that Tottenham got a point out of it in the way they did, I feel like that shows progression for me with Tottenham, because they would have lost that game a couple of years ago.
Yeah, but let's be real. Their 2 goals arguably should have stood.
Yeah, but these are the fine margins in the Premier League. It's not up to Tottenham to make the officiating better in the league, is it?
Yeah.
And
100%.
you are always going to get those days where the decisions go your way, unfortunately. I mean, they shouldn't have, but they did. And they took advantage of that. Fair enough. And I have to say, as much as the first goal perhaps maybe shouldn't have stood, the fact that it goes on for 44 seconds, there's still a lot of time for Chelsea to defend that situation.
Yeah, 100%. But they didn't. They just switched off.
No, they did. It was great.
Let's move on to a very feisty game again. Final game. Liverpool 1, Palace 1 now. Palace were actually under the cosh for large parts of the game, let's be real. But Zaha managed to get the breakaway, and it was a great finish past the keeper, Alisson. It was straight into the bottom corner. Great finish. It doesn't end there, does it, Joe? In the second half, Anderson, the centre-back for Palace, kept rustling up, but that's what you're going to get in the Premier League on Nunez, new Liverpool signing. And it kept winding him up, and he had him in his pocket all game, let's be real. Didn't you, Joe?
Yeah, he did. I want you to use what I'm going to say next as the sort of prop line for this week's podcast. Nunez, what were you doing? What were you doing? It was just he just lost his head, didn't he?
Headbutting him, and because he slowed down, he went full on up. It's like an uppercut to the chin with his head, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. It was ridiculous. I mean, I'm not sure. We won't mention his name because it was a ridiculous opinion. But me and you have got a mate of ours in a group chat who had a bizarre opinion on Anderson's kind of reaction to it, and he thought that they both should have got yellow cards. And that
it's not simulation if you get headbutted, is it?
No, it's not. It's not. And I can understand people kind of looking at it in different ways, but I've looked at that Nunez sort of situation so many times, but just very inexperienced play, in my opinion. Absolutely stupid play.
Yeah, incredibly stupid. But then 5 minutes later, what a goal! What a goal! What a amazing run, and what a finish by the Liverpool player, wasn't it?
Yeah, well, Diaz, I think there's been a lot said about Mane leaving. Obviously, Diaz has taken his position this season, but that's going to go some way to helping the fans realise that he's got it in his pocket for sure. Because that was a fantastic, mazy run and a great finish. So yeah, good run, good finish. Not a good result for Liverpool, but they'll move on, and they've got Man United next. So I'm saying 4-0 Liverpool. You know what I mean?
4-0 Liverpool. Okay, so we're actually running a bit over, Joe. So let's do some quick fire predictions now for the next game week. So I'm gonna read out the. Gonna call out. Okay, so the first one is Spurs Wolves.
Spurs Wolves. I'm gonna go 2-0 Spurs.
I've gone 3-0 Spurs. Crystal Palace, Aston Villa.
Crystal Palace 2-1.
So 2-1 Palace. Everton Forest. Now it's going to be an interesting game.
Everton Forest. I'm going 1-0.
1-0. I've gone 1-0 Forest. You have to be positive. Come on, Forest. Fulham Brentford.
Sorry, say that again.
Fulham Brentford.
I'm gonna go Brentford 2-0.
I've gone 3-1 Brentford. Leicester Southampton.
I'm going to go 3-0 Leicester.
I'm going to go 1-1. Sorry, Joe. Bournemouth Arsenal.
Bournemouth Arsenal. I'm going to go 3-1 Arsenal.
I've gone 2-0 Arsenal. Leeds Chelsea.
Leeds Chelsea. I'm going 1-0 Chelsea.
I've gone 2-0 Chelsea. West Ham Brighton.
I'm going to go 2-2.
Good old Desmond. I've gone 2-1 Brighton. I just think they might just edge it. Newcastle Man City.
Newcastle Man City. I'm going 3-0 Man City.
I've gone 4-1 Man City. And finally, Manchester United versus Liverpool. I know you've said 4-0.
Yeah, I'm sticking with that. I'm sticking with that 4-0 Liverpool.
You know what I've gone for? I've gone for a Desmond 2-2 because you never know what's going to happen in these rivalries. So these are predictions. Remember, these are just our opinions and predictions. But if you have any other opinions and predictions, please let us know down below or on our socials. We'd love to hear it, wouldn't we, Joe?
Yeah, definitely. Absolutely. Right then, going on to the last section of the well-known Joe Asks, Will Tells. I want to know who you think, team-wise, has had the best transfer window.
Oh, that's a good question. Because
and why?
It's a very good question.
So far, I might add.
But there's
still 2 weeks. I'm still holding out hope for Leicester.
Well, because sometimes less is more, isn't it? You don't necessarily have to sign players to have a good transfer window. Just keeping your assets could be important. That's why Leicester probably might have a good transfer window. If they keep Fofana, if they keep Tielemans, if they keep Maddison, for example, you would say you've had a good transfer window in that respect, wouldn't you?
I would, but I would have liked to see one or two faces, maybe more out. But yeah, no, if we can keep those three players you've just mentioned, less so Tielemans, because I feel like he's kind of checked out himself. His performances have kind of taken a bit of a nosedive. But I feel like if we can definitely keep Maddison's and Fofana, I think we'll have had a great transfer window, personally.
Yeah, and obviously there's some good honourable mentions. Obviously, Man City buying Haaland, for example, which is a great coup. It could make what has been shown to make a real difference this season. But I'm going to go for Arsenal. Now, you're probably going to agree with me on this one, actually, Joe, aren't you? Because the players who signed are a cut above. Zinchenko, Jesus, they've already made key differences in the Arsenal performances already. And that's why I think they're obviously they're missing a few people already, for example. But Arsenal, for me, Zinchenko has been unbelievable and Jesus has been unbelievable. So that's why I'm going for Arsenal. What do you think, Joe?
Yeah, I agree with all your points there. I'll tell you who I think's had a bit of an underrated window, and this one's a bit of a dark horse. I'm not necessarily saying this is going to work out as well as some people might think or not think at all. I reckon Leeds have had an underrated window.
Yeah.
And the reason for that is I just like the way they've done business. So what they've done is obviously they've got rid of Rafinha, they got rid of Calvin Phillips, two of their main players last year, right? But actually, they've brought players in who are not Premier League proven, I'll admit that, but they brought players in straight away. They've already identified who they wanted to bring in. So in the way they've done business so far, makes me think that they could potentially have a better season, especially with how they're performing in the opening two games for me. I think I'm not saying they've had the best by any stretch of the imagination, but I think they deserve a definite honourable mention that nobody's talking about.
100%. I think they might be one of the dark horses this season as well because of that. I completely agree. But so thank you very much, Joe, for joining me as always. I've been William Bayless. And remember to follow us on all our socials. Remember, if you have any comments and opinions, we'd love to hear it, wouldn't we, Joe?
Yes, we definitely would.